Welcome to the Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Rita Perez, who's a travel advisor, a marketing strategist, a podcast host. So this is, you're in your home now, and an autoimmune warrior. So this is so cool. I am so excited to have you here today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any other Hashimoto's warriors out there? Let's do it.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited to have you on here because I know when we connected before this, we were like, oh my gosh, I felt like it was only a matter of time till we had the one, the only Rita Perez on here. So this is very exciting. So thank you for taking your time out to join us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to talk with you, gab a little bit about all things wave season, and help put some action plans together for the travel advisors listening.
Yes, and it's the most perfect time ever. So that's why I'm really excited. I can't believe it's this time already. It's wave season.
Right.
It's nuts. But before I jump any further, I know that I must ask this question is if there's anyone new to the industry or unfamiliar with the term, because the first time I ever heard this, I was like, wave season, what would that mean? So can you just quickly explain what that is and when is wave season taking place?
Yes, so wave season is typically Q1. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it already started. So, and I say Q1 because it's the holidays. Everybody has gotten together already for some of the holidays, Thanksgiving. We have Hanukkah starting the week that we're recording. Then we have Christmas, Kwanzaa, solstice. And so lots of people are gathering together. And when people are gathering together, they're creating ideas of what they want to do in the nearby future. And that obviously will include travel. And so as soon as the ball drops and all that, people are like, okay, I need to start making these plans since it's already 2024. It's either spring break, summer vacation, something for 2025. So there is really this boom of business that happens. And I think a lot of people tend to think like wave and cruise, but I think it's overall the whole industry that really gets this wave of business happening. As long as you have certain things in place in your business and your marketing and you're visible and you're being active with your communities and all that hopefully, and this should be a really great one. 2023 was really great. And I think it lasted for about 6 months, not the typical first quarter. So I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in 2024.
I know that's the thing that's really crazy about this is with wave season. I feel like it was just a quarter. And then it felt like it kind of never ended this year. And then now we're talking, there's people say it's already happening. It's like, right. Whoa, that is crazy. It's a good problem to have, but it's so crazy. And so you're right. I'm really curious to see what 2024 is going to be like.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm already feeling excited. I know a lot of people, they're talking about that they want 2024 to be the year that they put up some boundaries and that they're thriving, not just surviving within their travel business. And so I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to just see this whole new group of empowerment within the industry happening.
Yes, you're so right. It is so true that it is this year felt like it was just trying to stay afloat in a good way of managing, it's just was crazy and busy. And now it's okay, let's have these goals. And actually, speaking of, this is a perfect way to pivot in because the reason why we're here today, the $1 million question is how can travel advisors be ready for this? Because again, while we're recording this, it's about 3 weeks till the new year, which is terrifying in a way. It's crazy how quick that was. But how can they be ready? If you're listening to this, just right before the new year or the new year has begun and you're listening to this now, what can you do to be ready?
Yeah. So I think the first thing, and I know people are going to be like, oh, okay, she's talking about goals and all that. But let me just start off with telling you SMART goals don't work for me. I can't do the whole specific measurable. That doesn't work for me. So what works for me is knowing my numbers. And so I think this is a really also great plug for something that I have called the lead generation calculator, where you can add what are your personal expenses, your mortgage, do you have a major surgery next year, somebody graduating, are you having a new baby next year? So what are the personal things that are happening in your life that your business has to cover and has to make sure there's income for all those things that are happening? And then what are also your business expenses? Do you have some leakage in your business going on? Have you been paying for something that you're not using or you don't want to use anymore? Or maybe you've pivoted some way or you're wanting to pivot some way in your business. So I think really looking at your numbers so you can figure out what is your yearly income goal. And then when you have that yearly income goal, is it 40? Is it 75? Is it 100,000? Whatever it might be, how do you get there? So that's kind of like how I like to break it down and reverse engineer it at first, is get the numbers and then figure out, okay, if I have to make $40,000 a year, what is going to get me there? Is that 20 Disneyland trips? Is that one world cruise? Is that possibly a nice group on a river cruise? And breaking it down that way, because I think that helps. I feel, and I've done this before, where you just want to like start marketing and start putting things out on social media and email. And I'm like, but you don't even know how much you have to sell. When do you have to sell it? So I think when you have your numbers first, you're able to break down, okay, I have to sell one river cruise a month, or I have to sell 5 Disneyland trips this month, whatever it might be, so that you can be like, okay, what then are going to be my sales events that I can get to this yearly income goal and make it or even surpass it based on what your marketing efforts are. But it all starts with that goal, your sales plan, and then your marketing plan kind of comes at the tail end of that.
It's really smart to look at it that way, because it is. I know we had done a webinar one time about just creating your like marketing playbook kind of a thing. And it was the same thing. Like, what do you want to accomplish? And now break it down and how do you do it and stuff. That's so important. And it seems, I think it's actually kind of fun to think of it too, because it gives you some structure. You're not just shooting, like you said, like shooting anything that's possible out there. It's really honing you in on the goal in a simple way.
Exactly. And I think when you're able to see it too, you can kind of start seeing, oh my gosh, I have to like sell 3,000 or 300 $1,000 cruises to make that 40,000. But if I added a planning fee, or if I started selling premium instead of mass market all the time, then you can also start like that. I feel like is the exciting and nerding out part, is being able to figure out, you've been doing all this work. Maybe you're a little bit burnt out. Maybe you finally want to take your travel business full time. Maybe you're also getting other responsibilities. You know that you're going to start caretaking for a family member in 2024. So how do your personal and professional goals kind of shape that sales plan and that landscape, so that I always like to say, yes, we're in business, but we're also humans in business. And to be a whole business, you have to think of all the different components that make you an amazing human being. And there's a lot of personal things that can happen. If you're lucky enough and you don't have like big personal things happening next year, then woo, let's go. Like, let's plan out those big goals. But I really think kind of breaking that down and really strategizing, and not just being like, I'm going to sell all things travel, because then it kind of gets a little bit messy when you're talking about your marketing plan too. If you're talking about 50 different types of trips, but if you were more concentrated, then people start picking up on that and they're like, oh, that's the river cruise person, or that's the Galapagos person, or he's always talking about Alaska. And when you're known for something, that also helps people to like perk up their ears and be like, okay, I know when I want this trip, this is who my go-to person is.
Yeah, that's so cool. And actually, that's a good point too, that, you're starting over in a new year, new leaf. And so if you want to start figuring out what that niche is or what that specialty, no better time than now. So that's a good point. I love that. So it's like fun stuff. I love that.
Right. It's like a puzzle.
It is like a puzzle. It's so cool. I like this. I like the way you're structured. That makes sense. You start there, and I'm gonna jump ahead. I might jump ahead a tad here, but I know that so when you're looking at your data and seeing like what are the goals, and then we kind of already started talking about this, was like the niche, or like what do you actually want to sell? So that's probably the next step too, is looking how do people define that? Like if you are new to the industry or you're trying to pivot, like how do you start defining what you're going to sell?
Yeah, I think especially if you're a newbie, sell either what you know or what you love. And so I recently talked with an advisor who is all about Disney, and I know like there's different opinions on Disney, but if you know and love Disney, you are already an expert in that area. So whatever it is that may have been, like, don't take in the chatter from everybody else. See how that product or service that you're going to offer is really going to be able to maximize and get you to that revenue goal. I think that's the first place to start. Then if you've been in the industry for a little bit, or you're picking up like, oh my gosh, like the clientele that wants this is not the people that I want to work with, or oh my gosh, I realized when I planned a retreat event, like I was really in my zone of genius because it matched these two different things. I love event planning. I love going to all inclusive, or whatever it might be. So what is it that you're really passionate about? I feel like maybe I might have to create like a trifecta or something, because I think it stems along with passion, and then also finding the right supplier. And the right supplier kind of means different things. Are they paying out the commissions that you want to be paid out? Do they have the products that you want to be selling? And so when you're able to find like a really great relationships with suppliers who are able to really help you out, and I think that's an unthought of thing when we're thinking about planning our sales, is going to your BDMs and creating a sales plan and a marketing plan for your year based on that product. Now, I also want to say, I'm a big proponent that you shouldn't like base your business off of a supplier. Like, you are the product, you are the service of your business. But there's a lot of resources that some of your BDM supplier partners have, and they work with tons of different advisors within their region. So they may have tried different things that you may want to try in your own region as well. So don't ever forget the huge resource that BDMs can be to your business. So we've got like our goals, we've got our suppliers. And I think it's like, really, what are you passionate about? And what's like, how much energy, how much bandwidth, how much capacity do you have? Because I know some people are like, yeah, I work 12, 14 hours. And I'm like, I don't want to work 12, 14 hours, or I don't want to service 300 people in a year. So what is your bandwidth based on all the other duties that you have in your life? You kind of have to find a perfect blend of passion and suppliers and capacity to really determine what it is that you want to sell. And so I feel like even before you're thinking about your numbers, what is your big vision? What is your big plan? And some of the things that can help with your bandwidth is, could you hire out a nanny? Could you hire out someone to cook personal meals for you, or to clean your home for you, or even just to take on some admin tasks for your business? Not saying that it's necessary, but if you could spend your time, if paying that person X amount of dollars, it's going to help you generate another trip, or like make your goal for the year, then that investment really is worthwhile too.
That's such a good point. That's something that I think a lot of us miss when we talk about goals and getting excited about, all that kind of stuff and business side. But there's also the personal side where it's like, well, you can find creative ways to take care of
Right.
your life and business too, whether it's in your business, hiring so many virtual assistants out there now. Like, it's really been a thing that I've noticed in the past year, just really growing, but
Right.
also just like a personal meal, like things that you got to get creative.
Right, because that is definitely on my goal list. I have personal chef friends, and I'm like, I would love to hire you again so I don't have to worry about my meals for dinner after a long day of working.
I like that. That is a great goal. That's
Right?
awesome. Yes, that's so good. And
Yeah.
so out of hiring, getting the personal chef and the people, this just sounds great, I think. But what other things are there, any other areas that somebody should be thinking about or writing down and getting ready for at all?
Yeah. So I kind of like to break that down. There's 5 different areas of your business that I kind of see. And so I would say it's foundations. And when I'm talking about foundations, it's, do you need to review certain things like terms and conditions or agreements within your business to prepare for that wave season? Has there been a change? I especially think about adventure travel, and there's so many different definitions of adventure travel. that does your E&O have to change a little bit, or do your terms and conditions have to change a little bit? So going to those professionals to update like those foundational things that you need to make sure that your business is running. I also see finances as one of those. And I know we're going to talk about the wave season checklist. It's got a couple of these points on that checklist where it would be a really great idea if you could get all of your finances in order, or as many as possible, because wave season coincides with tax season. And I don't think you might have the capacity or have the desire to kind of like mesh those two. So if all of your finances and things can be in order before you even start, get with your accountant to be like, oh, we got to make sure that this is done. And then you can coast during tax season and let your professional take care of that. The next segment, I would say, is operations, which is kind of like working within your business. How are you serving your clients? This is the area I talk a lot about, like workflows and processes. And I know that can be a little cringy to a lot of people, but if you have not started processes or SOPs right now, while we're getting somewhat of a downtime, unless like you're attending events or you have a lot of people traveling, writing down that process of what happens within your business and the multiple different things. So when you're like, but what's a process? Planning a trip, that's a process, that's a project, and there's a process that you have. So it may not necessarily be implementing a project management tool just yet, but if you can like write a Google Doc or put it in a spreadsheet, okay, for every trip, I do X, Y, and Z. And that not only helps you to like alleviate bandwidth in your brain, which I know we're thinking about like 50 million things all at once. But if you were to hire on a virtual assistant, an admin assistant, an operations manager for 2024, you can easily be like, ta-da, here's all the things that you need to know about my business, and not having to spend too much time training them because you're already writing standard operating procedures for your business too. So I would like to also say like that includes tech. Operations is a lot about tech, aka like a little plug for Travefy team over here. And Travefy is doing like so many innovations on both the itinerary building and the CRM side. So is 2024 the year that you change up your tech, that you invest in your tech? There's other tech that you might want to have in place for wave season, because I'm thinking wave season, you're going to get a lot of inquiries and discovery calls. So do you have something like a Calendly or a TidyCal or an Acuity? And is that already in place? Like, do you have a discovery call set up? Is the form embedded on the contact page on your website? Once somebody fills out the form, what happens then? Are they given all the directions through the scheduling calendar? Is your calendar up to date to make sure if you are going on any FAMs or attending any conference in quarter 1, or if you have any big family things coming up, that those are blocked out and people don't schedule anything during that time? So those are, I think, big things, because I feel like people are like, oh my gosh, wave season's going to come and I don't even know what to do to prepare and I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I think like that's one of the simple ways, like maybe refreshing that inquiry form or having that calendar link ready to go, so that it just streamlines. That's what processes really do. And that's what all this tech helps you with, is to make things easier for you. So I know some people shy away from it, but don't shy away from ease, especially like ease was one of my words of the year for 2023. And I did start implementing a project management tool. And it was like, oh my gosh, I could like have all this like time not to have to worry about it, because the project management tool is going to tell me XYZ. So I think like those are the first two things to look at, is your foundations and your operations.
Yes, I love that. That's so good. Well, and I was going to mention too with in Travefy, if those listening, if you're a Travefy user, you can do the task list. So that's really cool. I think it's cool though. I like how you mentioned like lay it out first, but then in Travefy, you can also plot it in so that way you can upload it as a task list every time you have a new trip or to a client.
Right.
So you can do it that way. And then we also did just implement Calendly, so you can put it in forms, embedded in there, and website, because that That's a big one. That is huge.
Right.
That's such a smart thing to note, though, about, you know, just checking. I mean, that's the easy stuff that takes like a couple minutes to do, that when you're like, it is very overwhelming, but you're like, well, wait a minute. I can just make sure my calendar's set and my Calendly's working correct, or my Acuity, or whatever it is you're using, like works up.
Right.
That's a good point. There's a lot of simple things in there that are, because I like checking tasks off. So those are the easy ones that are like, go after those, and it'll make a world of difference when you're super busy come January and you're like, can't keep up with all of the inquiries.
Right. It's, if you can do as much now as possible, that is going to help you way in advance when we're talking about it, because there's still 3 more points. We still have to talk about marketing, sales, and expansion. But I think once you've got your foundations and operation set, it's going to be a little bit easier, because I feel like a lot of us think like marketing is a little bit fun. Like myself, I think marketing is fun. So we want to get to that part, but we can't forget those first 2 things before.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I'm the same way. Marketing is fun. It's always like, oh, marketing. It's like,
Right.
oh, how exciting. So what would be the next step? Is that the next one, or are we not there yet?
Yes. So yeah, marketing is the next one. And I think a lot of people confuse what marketing and sales are. I like to say marketing leads to sales. And marketing isn't just social media and email marketing, even those are really important. I think the first and foremost, if you're like, I'm a newbie, or I don't have clients, or I haven't heard from my clients for a long time, the thing that you need to do is start plotting out, how are you going to meet people? I am notorious for saying, I do not like that the marketing funnel starts with attract, because I feel like attract is a very passive way, where I'm like, being in business is a contact sport. We got to actually like be proactive and doing the things. And the easiest way to find clients and to get clients is to be talking to people. And it's not necessarily the people that are in your immediate network. This has to be like people that are outside of your immediate network as well. Because sometimes some of us like get a little family and friends are not the best options when it comes to clients for our businesses. So doing like a simple Google search, what are networking events near me? So like what, whatever city, whatever state, town you're in, start networking in that regards. Sometimes there's a lot of, especially if you're public on LinkedIn, there's some even virtual networking events and like virtual coffee chats that you can attend with different groups around the country. And then, so it's a combination of in-person and virtual. In person, you can also, if you're not, because I know there's BNI, Business Networking International. I kind of went the route of joining my local Rotary chapter, which I love. So there's Rotary and there's Lions clubs, where they're community service organizations. Yes, there's dues involved, and no, that not the primary thing is to do networking, but the primary thing is really to help out your local community through either volunteer work or raising funds for other organizations in the community. But you're going to naturally meet other business owners and other movers and shakers in those types of communities. So that may be one of your focuses, especially one, if you're kind of feeling lonely, there's weekly meetings that happen with these organizations. And 2, if you really want to give back to your community, and that's like one of the pillars and focuses of the year. So yes, there's a lot of digital marketing that you can do, but I think it's really important to start thinking about different ways that you can meet people, or different ways that you can also collaborate with people. Like this year, for me personally, has been a huge year of incredibly fun collaborations. And it is all, we're talking about like, this is not competition. This is all like, if we can lift each other up, we just make our industries and our avenues just better and like moving forward and in the right directions. So are there any local businesses, national businesses that you might have a similar audience? Like I think people who have like different medical, like autoimmune, like myself, or is this autistic families? Is this homeschooled families? There's different ways that you can collaborate with people who serve that same audience, but don't do exactly what you do. So how can you creatively think and come up with a collaboration that really positions you as an expert in that niche almost, if you will? So really thinking about the human aspect and the relationship aspect when we're thinking about marketing for 2024.
See, this is why I was so excited to have you on here. So many good tips. Amazing. It's so true that, yeah. And I think it also just happens so organically when you start putting
Right.
yourself out there and having the networking events. And because a lot of the times I think we look at it and think, oh, I want to sell river cruises. So I want to go to, I know my audience is here. So I'm going to go there. But you do, it's such a good point though, that it's also just getting involved in things or being part networking with other people. Cause
Right.
you just start it just is it's a good butterfly effect that just starts happening. So that's a really good point.
Right. And also knowing that whatever you're doing, the end goal is to be making sales. And that sales can naturally happen because of this, because I feel like we need to remember that we are in business, a business makes money. So how are these different things? Yes, it might be like through community outreach, but how is that going to leverage myself in order for me to make sales? If you're utilizing lead magnets, where are you putting that out? Are you talking about that in your social media, in your email marketing, in your blog post, so that it leads people to the next step? Because marketing is just the first step, but we got to close these sales and convert them so that we can get them to our yearly income goal. And figuring out what are those sales events, or how are you going to be involved to get people to say, yep, I like you, I know you, let's do this, let's close this deal. And then so that's the sales part. So we'll just briefly touch on that there, because we also have to think about expansion. And I know there's many people who are feeling burnt out in their businesses. So what can you do differently or bigger that can get you to the point where you're wanting to be within your business faster? And I think, like, relating back to collaborations, that is really something to be considered, because you go further faster with people. It can be a little bit of the long game, but people relationships, once people know you, like I just had somebody, we haven't talked in probably 2 years, and they immediately, I have another trip, let's do this.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I know. And well, oh, I guess we could be here forever talking about all these ideas,
Right.
but I just thought of something. I was like, wait, we like, yeah, there's so many, because there's also, do you also go back and think about the marketing points that you're going to contact your other clients? Cause like you said, like someone in two
Right.
years, that's just another part. Like, I just thought of that as you were saying that.
Right. No,
Endless.
and that's, I like to call that the MCC method, where you're meeting, connecting, and converting clients. But then there's that sneaky R that comes in, and that's reconnecting with the clients that you've already worked with. So are you sending, I love to use this program called Mailbox Power, and it automates sending birthday cards to people that are on my client list all the time. I had also started sending like postcards of the month. So I would send them like cruise of the month cards, where I would include different information of the types of destinations or experiences that I wanted to sell, which was a lot of like river cruise or expedition. And I kind of like considered them like fun baseball cards, but for the travel industry, where people, because direct marketing or direct mail marketing is something that's not widely used now. And so doing something a little bit different, because they always say the average email marketing, how the open rate of email marketing is about 20%, but somebody is always going to open their mailbox and check what's in the mail. So if you're wanting to do something a little bit different, it does have a higher cost than what it would be to invest in just email marketing, but it also sticks you out over other advisors and other of the big box stores and the online travel agencies and all that. That personal touch, and like, hey, I'm thinking about you, and hey, I'm still in business, so whenever you think about travel, you want to work with me too.
Oh, that's so cool. Can you say the name of that company again?
Yes, mailbox power.
Mailbox power. Okay. That's so
Yep.
cool. What a fun thing. I love that. That's really
Yeah.
cool. And so out of all those steps, are there still other, are there, because I know we have a freebie, but I won't say it yet. But are there any other really important steps that people need to think about right now?
I think it would also to be to think about you, and to think about your peace of mind. And again, like looking to your goals, and what does an ideal business year look to you like? What does it feel like? What are you doing? Does this mean that you're taking every Friday off this year? Does this mean you're only going to work 6 hours every single day? And really planning the life that you want, because I also like to say, like, this is our business and everybody has their own individual business. You get to make the rules. Nobody gets to make the rules unless, of course, maybe you're franchised or anything like that, that there are some rules you have to follow. But for the most part, you are in the driver's seat. So what does a successful business owner look like to you? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be these huge, big goals. Maybe you just want to be available for that after school pickup. Or I am one of those, like, I don't have children, but I love to be available. Like when my new baby niece was born and I got the call, you need to pick up the nephews now. I just love having the flexibility that owning a business offers, that whenever I can be there for somebody that I love, that I'm able to do that. So, and that includes like putting up some boundaries, which can be a little bit scary. I would also say a boundary is implementing a professional fee, or maybe even like a membership type fee structure. I know everybody likes to talk about fees, but that really is to put a boundary so that you are inviting the right types of clients in and saying, you're not my right fit client, to those who may not consider that valuable, or at least the pricing of that valuable. I think it's also important to note that everybody has value. So not, if you're kind of like, I'm not really sure what to charge for a fee, thinking about what a $250 fee package looks like, what a $500 fee package looks like, because that may look a little bit different. And I know everybody structures things differently, but instead of being afraid or scared to charge your value, charge your worth, all those buzzwords, what does a package look like of that value to you, and how can you deliver that to your clients? Because remembering that, yes, I'm talking about making new connections, and we shouldn't stop making new connections, but if you are also delivering excellent customer service to the people that you're serving, they're going to sing your praises all over the interwebs as well.
Yes, that's so true. And the fee it's a big one too. And what a good time to implement it. If you're gonna do it or make changes, like now it's a good, I mean, anytime's the time, but that is a good point in there. And so I know one thing, this is gonna help. I wonder if anybody like listening, they're like, I'm taking notes. But guess what, everybody? Rita has something for you. You have a free wave season checklist with like everything on it, which is incredible. So I'm gonna put that in the show notes. But how can they use that, or like, are there any special notes about it?
Yeah, you can print it out if you'd like, or it's a Google Doc. You can actually do the little check boxes in Google, so you can keep it a digital copy too. And it goes over the different things. I wouldn't say it's like a be all end all checklist, but it goes over a lot of things that we mentioned, plus more, about the different areas, your foundations, your operations, marketing, sales, and expansion, and the things that you should be thinking about now. And I also like to say, you don't have to do all the things. So if you look at this checklist and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot on here, you may be okay in some of the areas. So don't worry and don't feel like you have to do everything. Just really think, what are your big goals for 2024? Is this making more money? Is this being stable? Is this, I really have to implement systems? And when you think of those big goals for 2024, then you could you have your boundaries, you have your blinders on to be like, okay, this is not a focus of my year, so I'm not going to worry about this year, and checking that off the checklist. So hopefully it gives you some clarity and confidence when you're going into 2024, and especially the wave season.
That's so true. I like the clarity of it, because it's so easy to be like, I want to do it all. You naturally, of course you want to do everything possible, but to really whittle it down and figure out. So that's awesome. That's really cool. And also though, if anyone has like questions, and I know you have a lot of amazing resources available. So how can people find you online?
Yes. So I have the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur podcast. I come out with episodes every single Friday, so you can go ahead, listen to that to get lots of freebie and lots of there's a lot of really juicy episodes coming at the end of this year, where I kind of like really open up and bear with you like some of the struggles and some of the big wins of 2023 for me, so that you can also learn that and take like little things to use for your business. And then programs.steeryourmarketing.com. I have a lot of different paid programs on there. And of course, you can also set up a marketing consult with me. And make sure that you're following Take the Helm VBS on social media, because sometimes I'll pop in there with like some inspiration or like, I am one that I love relating other things that have happened in the real world to travel business and how you can utilize that for your travel business and strategize.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I love that. I'm gonna have to go make sure I'm following those because I want to see and the juicy episodes. Ooh,
Yeah.
exciting. That is cool. And I'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes. Everybody can go in there and get those as well. But before we go, I have something for you as rapid fire questions. So I didn't tell you we were doing this, but we have 7 of them. Wait, I think no, 6. Okay, there's 6 rapid fire questions, travel related. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay, so the first one, what is your favorite travel movie?
Oh, that is well, it is Christmas time. So I'm not sure if overall travel movie, but I have to say the Home Alone movies that have, especially New York, when he goes to New York. I recently watched that and I'm like, it's just one of those nostalgic movies, but that has a little bit of travel aspect to it too.
It does. It all is because of travel. That's literally why it's happened, is because of travel. So it's definitely travel. Agreed. Yes. I love that one. And the New York one is so good. Perfect answer. Okay, so next question here is, what is your favorite destination you've traveled to?
Ooh, so a surprising destination and one that I'm like, oh, it feels like almost like a home away from home is France. And I didn't think I was gonna like France as much as I did. And I'll be even more specific to say like the south of France, because I've done a lot of river cruising in the Provence region, and I'm actually heading there with Windstar shortly. But it's just, I know a lot of people are like, oh, the French are not friendly, but they are so friendly. And as long as you say bonjour, if you start out a word with that, and I really love them too because they're so open. I autoimmune, so I'm also gluten-free and dairy-free, and they're very open and have lots of different options to accommodate me. I am going to Italy this next week too, so I'm interested to see. I've heard really great things, but I'm interested to see on that side. But I think just it feels like home, which is weird to say about a foreign country that I've only visited a handful of times. But I think I am so looking forward to being in the south of France again soon.
Oh my gosh, take me with you. That's awesome.
Let's go.
That is incredible. France is on the top of my list right now. Like that, I feel the same way. I haven't been there, but I want to go to the south. And okay, this is perfect. This was meant to be. I will find my way into your suitcase here in about a week. We'll figure that out. I'll go with you. So a little bit of a spin on that question is, what do you think is the most underrated destination to visit?
I feel like sometimes Alaska can seem like a little cliche for people, but I visited Alaska for the first time in 2019, and it was really a transformative experience. I had a really rough summer. A lot of not great house stuff was happening, and just to be with my family out in nature, summertime, I'm in Orlando. Summertime is not the best time to go outside in Orlando, Florida, because it's so hot and sticky and humid. So I think for me, like the most surprising destination and what I would say is like one of my underrated is Alaska, because just being out in the fresh open air and that grounding that I just needed, I was like, I need to do this every year. And of course, we all know what happens after 2019, but hopefully can get that started again soon.
Yes, you have to. That is also, I love that. Like where you have your place that you just find yourself grounding. Like that's really cool. I like that. And hopefully you're going to go back soon and you don't get what happened last time ever again in your lifetime.
Not happening. Nope.
No more. So another question here, this fourth one is, what is the best meal you've ever had while traveling?
The most interesting meal that I think of, like as soon as you say that, because I try to go with gut instinct, is beef cheeks, and I had it on a river cruise, and I think that was back in 2017. So it's been a while since I've had it, but it was surprising and delicious. And I just remember like the seasonings and everything they added to it. So that's my, like, I'm salivating thinking about. Oh, and then the Hungarian stew, which I always want to call borscht, and I'm always wrong. Goulash.
Oh,
I
goulash.
love a good goulash.
A goulash. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beef cheeks.
Yeah.
That is funny. Like the name. So okay, second to last question here is, what is the last great book or article that you read? It doesn't have to be travel related either.
Ooh, that is a good one, because I am trying to get back. I've actually downloaded a couple things from Kindle. I'm a big astrology person, and I can't necessarily say like there's an article, but there was a recent like live that happened with some astrologists just talking about what's going to be happening in 2024. And I know like some people are like, oh, but that's so hokey. And I see it as them not necessarily predicting things, but it's just things to be aware of. And I love going to astrologists, and that was led by Leslie Tagorda, who has, I think, the Star Powered Brand program. But just knowing that there might be a couple of challenges happening in 2024. And I love how somebody else likes to say it's being prepared and not scared about it.
Yes, I'm 100% there with you. Oh my gosh, it's so true. It does feel hokey, but it's just being aware. That's exactly what it is. So
Right.
that's cool. I'll have to look that person up. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question is one of my favorites, is what is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while traveling?
Well, I think about the time my really good friend Nicole wanted to, and I will preface this, I'm not a very adventurous person. So she wanted to take Jeeps when we went to St. Thomas instead of doing like a regular excursion. And then we got lost on the way back to the port, like right before we were supposed to get on the ship. And I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No, no, no. So I would think that's like the craziest thing that's happened to me. And but it's also a memory that lives on.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like some of these stories, some of them it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. But it's like, well, it also, you're laughing about it now. And like,
Right.
it's a memory. And
Right.
sometimes you learn and live from them. Like,
Right. Exactly. They're
yes.
lessons.
Exactly. They are. Exactly. Well, I love all this. It's so much fun chatting with you. And
Yeah.
this is just putting so much excitement into the new year and all that stuff. So again, everyone go check out the checklist, start getting ready, get excited. And thank you again for everyone tuning into this episode of the Lounge with Travefy Academy. And of course, thank you to our special guest, Rita, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight.